Okay, so what we've got here is our third page. And remember, we were talking about recommendations to parents. We have our assessment here of what's been served, what's wrong. There's not enough calcium, not enough fiber. We would go to this recommendations page. And what we have here is a mock up that I just created for what that page would look like. And essentially, you would have a number of ingredients that the parents could decide where to place in any part of the day. They have the flexibility, the freedom to do what they want to do. Do all of these, do some of them, and each of these ingredients has a nutrient which is low. This is not all nutrients, but based on the nutrients that are low here on this page, the nutrients that we've said are low, only nutrients that are low, or that the meal is not the meal that was scanned, or that the day is missing, are outlined here. So in this case, calcium, fiber, iodine, and omega 3s are all low, and so these are ingredients for calcium, fiber, iodine, and omega 3s that would help fill the gap, right? So blackberries, buttermilk, pearlzan. These are actually some that we got from our ingredient database that probably wouldn't make the final cut because they're obscure, watercress and pearlzan. But you get the idea. If this says something like pinto beans, black beans, for calcium, maybe white beans, right? Cannellini beans, omega 3s, salmon, any fish, maybe canola oil. But the idea is that this is just a quick um, a quick injection of information for the parents, or a quick orientation for the parents based on what's low. These are some things that you can add, and add them how you feel, wherever you feel is appropriate. Now, you may say, okay, what if, the item that we have for fiber, or the item we have for calcium, let's say, for instance, the item we have for calcium is something they don't want. We're not going to include watercress in our database, but let's say it's something that's equally obscure, or something that they feel is obscure, or maybe the child doesn't like it. So here is where we have the detail, and I think a big standout piece of this design is that we're including the amount, right? The estimated amount based on the daily value that we're missing, um, or the daily value that we're missing here, and this thing keeps on reverting back to its unscanned state because we're in Claude, and Claude's not holding its state. But assuming fiber is still got a gap, and choline is fine, and calcium and omega 3 are low, everything that we discussed based on this gap, for each of these nutrients, we tell you for that nutrient, if we've got an ingredient that's supposed to solve that nutrient, we tell you how many grams would close the gap for the day, right? So in this case, this math is not right, right? This is a mock-up, but let's say 78 grams, 70 grams, 50 grams, and probably we would use ounces for this market. But this tells you how much of the ingredient we need, and assuming you don't like this ingredient, we have a carousel of additional ingredients for calcium, right? And this is actually supposed to change. It's going to do that in code, but we've switched to oat milk, right? 200 grams of oat milk. And ignore the numbers are high. The math is not right, but let's say it's 50 grams of oat milk, like a small amount. I've done a couple studies on the actual amounts, and the amounts would all be manageable. It's child nutrition, right? Like, the math isn't that complex, but it's a manageable amount of oat milk, and then this would say oat milk. Don't like oat milk, soft cream cheese. So we can go through this list, and we probably have no more than five. This has three, so we go to blackberries for fiber, right? And that's not clicking because I haven't set that up yet. But we would go to blackberries for fiber. This would say fill the fiber gap. It would say how many grams of blackberries. And then if we didn't like blackberries, we'd skip, and then we'd see something else. that's high in fiber. Maybe pinto beans, maybe what else is high in fiber? There's a number of things, but you get the idea. And we have a direction here that says swipe to see other sources, and also gives you an idea for what the score is for calcium. That's not entirely necessary, but we're brainstorming, right? The other piece of this that I think is really useful is having 3 ways to hide any of these ingredients. And again, we switched to soft cream cheese. This would switch to soft cream cheese. So would this. 3 ways to hide soft cream cheese. You can imagine in some cases one of these ingredients might be spinach, right? One of these ingredients might be something that the child is not particularly interested in eating by itself. So we include automatically, and we would have to put this in our database for each ingredient, 3 ways to hide it, right? Puree into a sauce, grate into muffins, blend it into fruit popsicles, just to make it easier for the parents to find a way to incorporate it in the meal. This is still kind of a freestyle model where we're identifying a problem and then we're recommending changes, but we're not necessarily recommending those changes in a super structured way. We are giving you an amount, and we're giving you ways to hide it, and we're allowing you to figure out as a parent, okay, you figure out exactly where you want to incorporate this in the day, but at least we're giving you the information. It's better than nothing, right? And then we move to our last piece on this page for recommendations is maybe you don't want just individual ingredients. Maybe you would prefer a recipe, right? Maybe it's post lunchtime and you see what's low and you say, okay, I can add different things and I can play whack-a-mole here with, buttermilk could probably go in something, but whatever I would put buttermilk in, I wouldn't put blackberries or pinto beans in, right? I don't want to do that math or that not even math. I don't want to do the work of trying to figure out how to make a recipe that would make this work. Well, we have actual recipes here where you can forego the ingredients. Maybe in this case you only have 1 or 2 things that's low, and you say, oh, I just need to add some blackberries, right? That's fine. But if you got multiple things, going through and figuring out how you want to serve those or which of those you want to serve, that can be a lot of work. So here we have try a recipe, and we have recipes that are actually selected based on their ability to meet calcium, fiber, iodine, and omega-3 lows, or to meet those gaps, close those gaps. Excuse me. So this is skillet cod, rice, and squash. In the mock-up here, we have, it solves iodine. This one solves omega-3s. This one solves fiber. But actually, these are constructed to solve all of them, right? So it's fish. All of them are fish, if you notice that. We're low on iodine. We're low on omega-3s. So cod, trout, they help us catch up on iodine and omega-3s. We're also low on, what else? Calcium and fiber. So you'll have certain types of starches that have fiber, and then elements that have calcium. This one probably would not do well with calcium. We may include a snack element or a drink element. We could say serve this with a cup of milk. Make sure they get a cup of milk because clearly you didn't have one at breakfast. Calcium is where it is. Or we have recipes where the calcium is, we don't necessarily need a specific drink recommendation because this solves iodine and omega-3 because it's got trout, but then the rice is cooked with coconut milk. That's what coconut rice is, right? So it's got your calcium in it. White bean salsa and fish, the calcium is in the white. They're cannellini beans, right? So the calcium is in beans, and then the fish obviously has the other nutrients in it. But you get the concept here. What we're doing is addressing the gap, the trust versus automation gap, in that we're building trust with our understanding of, and let's just go back to this one here because it's in its more finished state. We're building trust with our understanding of what's wrong or what's not quite up to snuff for the day, the conclusions associated with that. These things are not so good, not so hot, because of that. And we're still working through exactly how this gets presented. But we're building trust, and then we're automating a response, instead of just choosing between trust and automation and saying, hey, eat this, eat that. We're telling you why these things are necessary, and then we're giving you recommendations automatically about how to fix them at two levels. Recommendations at the level of, I don't know how you want to use it, but use it how you choose as a parent, right? Recommendations with a certain level of freedom, and then if you choose to give us the agency to kind of choose what you eat, we also, because of convenience, we have a more convenient way of doing the same thing, which is, okay, just eat this, eat that, cook this recipe, cook that recipe, and we tell you why. But the fact that we're correlating a story between what's wrong, outcomes, once we get once we get that presentation of outcomes right, and automated recommendations, is the thing that we're designing specifically for the gap in the marketplace offerings that we discovered when we looked at our competitive analysis for the other nutrition apps. So interesting stuff. Very, very interested to get this into Swift, iOS, and put this in our Apple simulator, our iOS simulator on iPhone, and see how it behaves. Once we hook all of this up, we'll have a working demo, and we'll be able to do a product teardown of that demo. That will effectively be version 1. I know some of these videos I put version 1 in the first mock-up video. It's the mock-up of version 1, but we'll actually have a functioning version 1 of the app that lives on a local device, and then we can do a product teardown, tear it to pieces, talk about everything that's wrong with it, and either tweak it or redesign. So good progress.